My name is Antonio Davis. I'm 75 years old, and I live in a modest house in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. Throughout my entire life, I was a man of strict routines. I always woke up at 6 in the morning, drank my black coffee without sugar, and read the newspaper from the first to the last page. I was a retired civil servant from the city government, where I worked for 40 years without missing a single day. But things started to change a few months ago. First, it was small, forgetful moments, where I had left my car keys, the name of the neighbor I'd been talking to for more than 20 years, or whether I had already taken my blood pressure medication. My daughter Carmen, who lives in Seattle, always called me worried. "Dad, are you taking care of yourself properly? Are you taking your medications at the right time?" I always told her yes, but the truth was that it was becoming increasingly difficult for me to remember everything. The doctors at my Medicare clinic had prescribed 3 different medications, one for high blood pressure at 8 in the morning, one for my heart at 2 in the afternoon, and another for cholesterol at 8 at night. It seemed simple, but my mind was playing tricks on me. If you're enjoying this touching story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. That's when Max came into my life. He was a 3-year-old golden retriever, offspring of my neighbor Mrs. Henderson's dog. She approached me one day, worried because she couldn't keep all the puppies. "Mr. Davis, would you like to keep Max? He's the most affectionate of the litter, and I think it would be good for you to have some company." Initially, I hesitated. I had never owned a large dog, and at my age I thought it would be too much work. But when I saw those golden, expressive eyes looking at me with such tenderness, something touched my heart. It was as if he knew I needed him as much as he needed me. The first days were about mutual adaptation. Max was an intelligent and observant dog. He followed me around the house, learning my daily routine. When I went to the kitchen to prepare coffee, he accompanied me. When I sat in my recliner to watch television, he lay at my feet. It was comforting companionship that I didn't know I was missing. But after a few weeks, I began to notice something strange about Max's behavior. He seemed to be watching me more carefully, especially during the times when I should take my medications. At first, I thought it was coincidence, but soon I realized there was a pattern in his behavior that deeply intrigued me. One morning, while I was drinking coffee and reading the newspaper, completely forgetting about my first medication of the day, Max started sniffing around the kitchen table where I kept my pill organizer. He became restless, walking in circles and staring at me intently. When I finally got up to see what was happening, he ran to the pill organizer and stood beside it, looking at me with an expression that seemed to want to communicate something important. That's when I looked at the clock and realized it was exactly 8 o'clock in the morning. Time for my first medication. I thought it was coincidence, but something in Max's behavior told me there was much more behind that apparently simple attitude. During the Pacific Northwest's rainy season, our daily walks became even more precious. Max seemed to understand that the gray, drizzly days of Portland required extra companionship. He would position himself closer to me during our walks through the neighborhood park, his golden coat glistening with morning dew. The neighbors in our quiet suburban street began to know us well. Mrs. Patterson, who ran the local coffee shop, always greeted us. "Good morning, Mr. Davis. That's a beautiful dog you have there." And Max, with his golden fur shining under the soft Oregon sunlight, would wag his tail proudly, as if he knew he was special. Our local pharmacist, Bob, at the corner drugstore, also became familiar with our routine. "Morning, Tony. Max keeping you company today?" he'd ask as I picked up my monthly prescription refills. Max would sit patiently by the door, as if he understood the importance of these visits. But what impressed me most was how Max seemed to adapt to the rhythm of our small American town life. He learned the sounds of the school bus in the morning, the mail carrier's schedule, and even the times when our neighbors would walk their own dogs. It was as if he was building his own internal map of our community's daily patterns. In the following weeks, I began paying more attention to Max's behavior, and what I discovered left me completely perplexed. It wasn't coincidence. My dog had developed an extraordinary ability that I never could have imagined possible. Every morning, punctually at 8 o'clock, Max would go to where I kept my medications. He would sniff the pill organizer box, gently take it in his mouth, and bring it to wherever I was. Then he would sit patiently beside me with those golden eyes fixed on me until I took the blood pressure pill. At first, I thought he had simply memorized my morning routine. Dogs are creatures of habit, I thought. But when the same thing started happening at 2 in the afternoon and 8 at night, exactly at the times for my other 2 medications, I understood I was witnessing something much more complex and moving. Max had not only memorized the 3 different schedules for my medications, he had taken responsibility for caring for my health. And most impressively, he never got the time wrong, not even by a few minutes. One day, I decided to test him. I intentionally left the pill organizer in a different place, in the bedroom instead of the kitchen where I always kept it. At exactly 8 in the morning, Max went to the kitchen looking for the pill organizer. Not finding it, he began sniffing throughout the entire house until he located the medications in the bedroom. He brought them to me and assumed his characteristic position, sitting beside me, watching me patiently until I took the medication. Give this video a thumbs up if you were also amazed by this incredible dog's intelligence, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Another memorable episode occurred on a Sunday afternoon. I was watching a football game on television, completely absorbed in the game. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, time for my heart medication, but I had completely forgotten. Max came to the living room, brought the pill organizer, and positioned himself between the television and me. When I tried to go around him to continue watching the game, he gently blocked my view again, never being aggressive, just insistent. Only when I took the medication did Max move away from in front of the television and lie down peacefully on the carpet. It was as if he perfectly understood the importance of those pills for my health and refused to allow me to forget them. I told this story to my daughter Carmen during one of our weekly phone conversations. She was initially skeptical. "Dad, are you sure you're not exaggerating? Dogs are intelligent, but what you're describing sounds almost human." To prove my point, during her next visit, I asked her to observe Max discreetly throughout the entire day. Carmen arrived Friday night and stayed until Sunday. Throughout the entire weekend, she witnessed my canine companion's extraordinary routine. Saturday morning at exactly 8 o'clock, Max brought my medications. In the afternoon at 2 o'clock, he repeated the procedure. And at night at 8 o'clock, once again, he fulfilled his caring ritual. Carmen was absolutely amazed. "Dad, I've never seen anything like it. It's like he has an internal clock and perfectly understands the importance of your medications." What moved me most was Max's patience. He never showed irritation or impatience with me. Even when I took time to understand what he wanted, or when I was too distracted to notice his initial signals, he simply persisted with gentleness and determination. During those days with Carmen, we also noticed other protective behaviors from Max. When I got up at night to go to the bathroom, he would follow me silently, making sure I wouldn't fall in the darkness. When I cooked, he stayed near the stove, as if he were watching to make sure I didn't forget to turn it off. The autumn colors in Portland created a beautiful backdrop for our daily walks. The maple and oak trees lining our street turned brilliant shades of red, orange, and gold, colors that seemed to match Max's beautiful coat. During these walks, I began to truly appreciate not just his companionship, but his protective instincts. Dr. Williams, my longtime physician at the Kaiser Permanente Clinic, was also impressed when I told him about Max's abilities during my monthly checkup. "Mr. Davis, what you're describing isn't impossible. Dogs have sensory capabilities far superior to ours. They can detect subtle changes in our behavior, our scent, our body language that indicate the need for medication." He paused and continued. "In medical literature, there are documented cases of dogs that detect epileptic seizures before they occur, or that identify certain types of cancer through smell. What Max is doing could be a combination of dog's natural temporal sensitivity with an extraordinary emotional bond with you. His words reassured me, but also made me reflect on the depth of the connection I had developed with Max. He wasn't simply a pet. He had become my caregiver, my silent guardian, my four-legged angel. The most impressive test of Max's extraordinary ability occurred in November, when daylight saving time ended. I had completely forgotten about the time change, as happens to many people my age. By then, I had already been living with the first signs of what doctors called mild cognitive impairment, a euphemism for the early stages of Alzheimer's. The first morning after the time change, I woke up confused. My wristwatch hadn't been adjusted yet, and I wasn't sure what time it really was. I went to the kitchen, turned on the radio to hear the news, and find out the correct time. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, according to the new standard time. I waited to see what Max would do, and then something happened that left me completely speechless. Despite the time change, without any visible clock he could consult, Max appeared punctually with my pill organizer. Not at 8 o'clock in the old time, but exactly at 8 o'clock in the new time. How could a dog understand such an abstract human convention as daylight saving time? How had his internal clock automatically adjusted to this artificial change that even many humans find confusing? Share this video with your animal-loving friends. Stories like this deserve to be known by everyone. I spent the following days observing Max with even more attention. His punctuality remained perfect. At 8 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 8 at night. Always at the correct time, always without fail. It was as if he had an intuitive understanding of time that transcended any logical explanation I could imagine. I decided to consult Dr. Richard Martinez, my doctor for more than 15 years, about this extraordinary behavior from Max. During my routine appointment, I told him the entire story. I expected him to react with skepticism, as my daughter had initially reacted. Instead, Dr. Martinez listened to me with attention and genuine interest. Antonio, what you're describing isn't impossible. Dogs have sensory capabilities much superior to ours. They can detect subtle changes in our behavior, our scent, our body language that indicate the need for medication. Additionally, some dogs develop such deep bonds with their owners that they seem to develop a kind of protective instinct that goes beyond normal. He paused and continued. In medical literature, there are documented cases of dogs that detect epileptic seizures before they happen, or that identify certain types of cancer through smell. What Max is doing could be a combination of dogs' natural temporal sensitivity with an extraordinary emotional bond with you. His words reassured me, but also made me reflect on the depth of the connection I had developed with Max. He wasn't simply a pet. He had become my caregiver, my silent guardian, my four-legged angel. One afternoon, while Max slept at my feet and I read a book, I began thinking about how my life had changed since his arrival. Before him, I was gradually isolating myself, worried about my increasing forgetfulness, anxious about the prospect of depending more and more on other people's help. With Max by my side, I felt more confident, more secure, knowing that he was always vigilant, always taking care of me. Portland's winter weather, with its persistent drizzle and grey skies, created a cozy atmosphere for our indoor routines. Max seemed to understand that the darker, wetter days required him to be even more attentive to my needs. He would stay closer to me during the long, northwest winter afternoons. Our neighborhood took on a different character in winter. The bare branches of the street trees created intricate patterns against the cloudy sky, and Max and I would still take our daily walks, both of us bundled up against the Pacific Northwest chill. The local Starbucks became a frequent stop. They were always dog-friendly, and Max would wait patiently outside while I grabbed my coffee. Mrs. Henderson, the neighbor who had given me Max, often commented on how well-suited we were for each other. Antonio, I knew Max was special when I saw how he chose to stay close to you that first day. Dogs have a sixth sense about these things. During the holiday season, our routine remained constant despite all the festivities around us. Even on Thanksgiving Day, when Carmen came to visit and the house was full of delicious smells and excitement, Max never forgot his primary responsibility to me and my health. As the months passed, the routine with Max had become the most comforting part of my days. But it was during a particularly difficult period that I truly understood the extent of the care he had assumed for me. In February, I went through a phase where my forgetfulness became more frequent and concerning. There were days when I woke up disoriented, not knowing whether it was morning or afternoon, whether I had eaten breakfast or not. My daughter Carmen suggested hiring a home health aide, but I wasn't ready for that step yet. I wanted to maintain my independence as long as possible. It was during this time that Max began demonstrating even more extraordinary behaviors. Beyond the medication schedules, he started alerting me to other needs. When I forgot to eat, he would lead me to the kitchen. When I left the stove on after preparing lunch, he would become restless, walking between the kitchen and me until I went to check what was wrong. One particularly confusing day, I woke up not knowing what time it was and went directly to the kitchen to try to have breakfast. I grabbed the pill organizer ready to take my morning medication when Max appeared and gently placed his paw on my hand, preventing me from opening the pill organizer. I was confused. Why was he preventing me from taking the medication? I insisted, but Max continued blocking my movements, always gently but determinedly. That's when I looked out the window and realized it was still dark outside. I checked the wall clock and saw it was only 5 in the morning. I had woken up 3 hours early and in my confusion almost took the medication at the wrong time. Max not only knew when I should take the medications, he also knew when I should not take them. Subscribe to the channel to follow more exciting stories about the incredible connection between humans and animals. This episode made me realize that Max had developed a complete understanding of my medication routine, including the importance of not taking double doses or taking them at incorrect times. It was as if he had become my personal nurse, monitoring not only what I should do, but also protecting me from what I shouldn't do. I began observing other aspects of Max's behavior. I noticed he became more attentive on days when I was more confused or disoriented. He seemed to have developed the ability to assess my mental state and adjust his level of care accordingly. On good days, when I was more lucid and oriented, Max maintained his normal routine of bringing medications at the correct times, but in a more relaxed way. On difficult days, when my confusion was greater, he became more vigilant, more insistent, making sure I had truly understood and taken the medication. Dr. Martinez was fascinated when I told him these new observations during my next appointment. Antonio, what you're describing suggests that Max has developed not just a routine, but a true understanding of your medical needs. This is extraordinary and, honestly, more effective than many electronic reminder systems I prescribe to other patients. He made detailed notes in my chart and commented, "I'm going to document this because it could be useful for other doctors who treat patients in similar situations. Animal-assisted therapy is a growing field in medicine, but cases like yours, where the animal spontaneously develops specific therapeutic behaviors, are rare and valuable." That night, while Max slept at my feet, I reflected on how a dog had become not just my companion, but my collaborator in maintaining my health and independence. It was a partnership that transcended anything I could have imagined possible. The spring rain in Portland created a soothing soundtrack for our evenings together. I found myself looking forward to our quiet moments, Max lying contentedly beside my chair while I read or watched the news, both of us comfortable in our shared routine. During one of Carmen's visits, she spent several days observing our daily life together. "Dad," she said one evening, "watching you and Max together is like watching a perfectly choreographed dance. He anticipates your needs before you even realize them yourself." Her observation was accurate. Max had indeed developed an almost telepathic connection with me. He could sense when I was having a good day versus a challenging one, and he adjusted his behavior accordingly. On my more confused days, he stayed closer, more vigilant. On clearer days, he was more relaxed, but never less attentive to our medication schedule. The local newspaper even ran a small feature story about us after Dr. Martinez mentioned our case at a medical conference. "Local man and his canine guardian," the headline read, and it brought visitors from around Portland who wanted to meet this remarkable dog and learn about our story. Winter brought new challenges for both of us. My forgetfulness was becoming more frequent, and there were days when I felt lost in my own home. It was during those moments that Max's presence became even more precious and essential. One particularly difficult morning, I woke up completely disoriented. I couldn't remember if it was Tuesday or Thursday, if I had already showered, or if I still needed to get dressed. I sat on the edge of my bed, trying to organize my thoughts, when Max appeared wagging his tail with his gentle gaze. He approached and put his head in my lap, as he always did when he sensed I was confused or distressed. His warm, comforting presence helped me calm down and gradually regain my orientation. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, time for my first medication, and as always, Max was there to remind me. But that day, something different happened. When I went to the kitchen to take the medication, I discovered the pill organizer was empty. I had forgotten to refill it at the pharmacy. I panicked, not knowing what to do. My daughter was traveling for work, and I didn't want to bother the neighbors so early. Max sensed my state of anxiety. He began walking around the house, clearly agitated, as if he were looking for a solution. After a few minutes, he came back to me and began leading me toward the front door. Initially, I resisted, but he insisted, gently pushing me with his snout. That's when I understood. Max was reminding me that I needed to go out to buy the medications. Even without completely understanding the situation, he knew something was wrong with our usual routine and was trying to help me solve the problem. Leave your comment telling us if you've experienced a similar situation with your pet. And don't forget to subscribe. We put on our coats and went together to the pharmacy on the corner. The pharmacist, Bob, already knew us well. "Morning, Tony. Forgot to refill again? Don't worry, happens to all of us." He prepared a new box with medications organized by schedules, and we returned home. As soon as we arrived, Max immediately resumed his routine. He brought me the pill organizer, now restocked, and stayed patiently beside me until I took the delayed medication. His expression seemed relieved, as if he too worried when our routine was broken. This episode made me realize how Max had become much more than a companion dog. He was my partner in maintaining my independence. Without him, I probably would have gone the entire day without taking my medications, something that could have had serious consequences for my blood pressure and heart health. In the following weeks, I began teaching Max some additional tasks. With patience and love, I showed him where different important objects were: my glasses, house keys, the telephone. Surprisingly, he learned quickly to locate and bring these items when I was looking for them. One day, Dr. Martinez made a house call to assess how I was managing the progression of my symptoms. He was impressed witnessing Max's routine in action. "Antonio, this dog is providing you with a level of care that rivals any technological or human assistance system. It's truly extraordinary." Dr. Martinez suggested I start keeping a diary of Max's activities, documenting his behaviors and how they help me day to day. This could be valuable not only for monitoring your condition, but also for researchers studying the therapeutic capacity of animals. I began writing about our daily routine, recording each gesture of care from Max. Each moment his presence helped me overcome a difficulty. It was an exercise that helped keep my mind active and also made me appreciate even more the incredible gift Max represented in my life. The Pacific Northwest's winter landscape provided a peaceful backdrop for our indoor routines. During the long, grey Portland days, Max seemed to understand that I needed extra attention and companionship. He would position himself where he could keep an eye on me while I went about my daily activities. Our neighborhood friends, Mrs. Patterson from the coffee shop, Bob at the pharmacy, Mrs. Henderson next door, all became part of our extended support system. They would check on us during their daily routines, and Max seemed to recognize each of them as allies in his mission to care for me. The local senior center invited me to speak about my experience with Max, and several other elderly residents expressed interest in adopting companion animals. It was gratifying to know that our story might inspire others to find similar companionship and support. Today, after a year and a half living with Max, I can say with certainty that he saved my life in ways that go far beyond medications. He gave me purpose, companionship, and above all, allowed me to maintain my dignity and independence even while facing the growing challenges of my condition. Our routine became a perfectly synchronized dance. At 8 in the morning, Max appears with the pill organizer. At 2 in the afternoon, he repeats the ritual. At 8 at night, once again he fulfills his silent mission to care for me. He never fails, never forgets, never loses patience with me. But Max does much more than just remind me about medications. He became my eyes when I forget where I put something, my ears when I don't hear the phone ring, my memory when I can't remember if I already locked the door or turned off the stove. A few weeks ago, I received an unexpected visit. A team of journalists from the local PBS station had learned about our story through Dr. Martinez, who was documenting the case for a medical conference. They wanted to film a segment about Max and his extraordinary ability. Initially, I hesitated. I've always been a private person, and exposing my condition publicly wasn't something that appealed to me. But then I thought about how many other people in my situation could benefit from knowing that creative alternatives exist for maintaining independence and quality of life. Share this video so more people can learn about this inspiring story. Every share can help someone. During the filming, Max behaved as always, natural, loving, dedicated. When 2 o'clock in the afternoon arrived, he interrupted the interview, brought my medications, and positioned himself beside me with his characteristic patience. The journalists were moved witnessing this demonstration of care and unconditional love. The segment aired a week later and generated a response I never could have imagined. I received dozens of phone calls from people in similar situations, family members of elderly people with Alzheimer's, and even veterinarians and researchers interested in better understanding Max's behavior. One call particularly touched me deeply. It was from an 80-year-old woman who lived alone and was also facing the first signs of cognitive decline. Mr. Davis, after seeing your story, I decided to adopt a dog. If Max could learn to care for you, maybe my new companion can help me too. This call made me realize that our story had transcended our personal experience. Max and I had become an example that it's possible to face the challenges of aging with dignity, creativity, and lots of love. The story also reached researchers at Oregon Health and Science University who study animal-assisted therapy. They invited me to participate in a study about emotional service dogs for people with early-stage Alzheimer's. It was exciting to know that Max's and my experience could contribute to helping other people in similar situations. During one of the research sessions, a doctor commented, "Mr. Davis, what Max does for you is extraordinary. We've seen professionally trained dogs that don't have the level of understanding and dedication he shows naturally." Those words filled me with pride for my canine companion, but also made me reflect on the nature of true love. Max hadn't been trained to care for me. He had chosen to do it out of pure and genuine love. Today, as I write these words, Max is sleeping at my feet. In a few hours, at 8 at night, he'll wake up, get my pill organizer, and once again fulfill his silent mission to care for me. Tomorrow morning at exactly 8 o'clock, he'll repeat the ritual that has become the foundation of our routine. I don't know how many more years I'll have with Max, or how my condition will evolve. What I do know is that, as long as we're together, we'll face each challenge as a team. He with his tireless dedication, Me with my infinite gratitude. Max taught me that true love doesn't need words to be expressed. It manifests in simple gestures, in constant presence, in infinite patience. He showed me that even when the mind begins to fail, the heart continues to connect in deep and transformative ways. If there's a message I'd like to leave for everyone who hears our story, it's this: never underestimate the power of a genuine bond, whether with an animal or another human being. Sometimes the care we need comes from where we least expect it, in the form of four paws, a wagging tail, and a heart that loves without conditions or judgments. Max isn't just my dog. He's my disguised guardian angel, my silent nurse, my best friend. And every day, at 8 in the morning, at 2 in the afternoon, and at 8 at night, he reminds me that there's still lots of love and care in the world. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and tell us in the comments how animals have also transformed your life. The Oregon sunsets, with their brilliant colors stretching across the Cascade Mountains in the distance, have become even more beautiful since I have Max by my side. Each day we spend together is a gift. Each shared routine is an act of love. Each moment of care is a blessing.